Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. I'm gratified in knowing that many of us are more conscious about our wellness. We're kind of gravitating to a more holistic approach in feeling better, getting better, staying away from some meds. Part of that is yoga. And of course, you've heard the word before. You might have some conceptions of what that is, maybe some misconceptions of what yoga is. Now let's go a layer deeper. Soma yoga. What exactly is that? We're going to talk with somebody today and learn all about this life-changing modality. That's amazing. And it can be done in studio, also live stream classes as well. And she's the woman that gets it done. Ann Blackburn is with us today. How you doing?
Great. Thanks, Steve.
Wonderful to have you here. Tula Yoga and Wellness is your practice, right?
It's our yoga studio. My husband Dan and I own Tula Yoga and Wellness, and Tula means balance.
I
And
didn't know
in
that.
yoga and Ayurveda, which is the sister science to yoga, we're always working toward balance.
It's amazing how far back this goes in terms of yoga, Ayurveda. Oh my gosh, that lifestyle originated, I don't know, maybe thousands of years ago. I'm not even sure, but that also encompasses diet and so much more. But holistic living. Um, why don't we define yoga first before we go to Soma yoga? Because I think a lot of people think it's people crouching down, doing certain poses. And if they are not athletic or flexible, they just shy away. I can't do that. That's not for me. Um, but it's not about the physical aspect. It's also about the mental aspect too, right?
Right. Yeah, so there's so many different forms of yoga, and yoga is thousands of years old. It comes from India, and it has come to the US through various yogis, and they brought the practices here to share. And so it's very vast, but we like to think about the whole aspect of yoga. There's the physical. So there's the movement that we do, that I think that's probably what we know most, right?
Hmm.
That's what we identify yoga with
Yep.
in the West. And so there's the movement, and that's really important. There's so many aspects of our body that need movement, and we get to use various techniques to support the body. Then there's the breath science, or the pranayama it's called, and the breathing techniques that help to regulate the nervous system. We use those for various things. We might do that to energize, or we might do it to calm. So there's the breath science, there's the philosophy, which is huge. That's a big part of how we live is through the yogic philosophy. There's non-harming and living truthfully, and there's just so many aspects of it that help to uh, lessen our suffering. Really, that's the point of the philosophy and all these practices, is to be able to connect with ourselves, our true self, because we can certainly get very reactive and move away from our true self. And so it's really about connecting to ourself, being able to calm the mind, calm the nervous system, to be able to access different aspects of us that we don't get to if we're in that, reactive fight or flight, we call it, survival mode, which most people are in. And so it's easy to react and get into survival mode. So these are the techniques that help us come back to regulation and non-reactivity in connecting to we call it our wisdom self, because we have so much power within us that we get to tap into.
Can you give us like a percentage, the mental, spiritual aspect versus the physical? Would you say the mental part of yoga is, wow, that's more like 60% versus 40, the physical? What do you think it would be?
I think it depends on, everybody comes to yoga for different reasons. And
Okay.
So somebody might come to it, most people come to it through the physical aspect, and then they realize, wow, I actually can connect more with, I have all these other benefits that I wouldn't expect. And so then people get into more of the spiritual side of it. But it all works together. And so in the East, it's probably more of the mindfulness spiritual aspect. In the West, we probably have more of the physical. So I like to teach and practice a very balanced approach.
Love it. I have a friend who saw him last night. Yoga changed his life. 6 years ago, he went for a routine medical exam. At that moment, they identified a heart issue. They said, "You're leaving here and going to the hospital." He had emergency surgery on his heart. They found a defect. And what got him through all the recovery of all of that was yoga, And now he practices it morning and night. And then I have another friend. This is a refrigeration repair man. He goes up on roofs, big burly dude. And he goes, "Hey, I'm doing yoga now." I'm like, "You're doing yoga?" "Yeah, I stream it and it's great." Can't even picture him doing it, but that's besides the point. It's made a significant difference in his life, and he had some medical things come up too. I don't think I think we shy away from it because we're afraid. Where I can't do those poses. I'm not. I don't have the dexterity. I can't hold a pose and do all of that. And it doesn't matter, right?
Right. So the way we teach is that it's accessible to everyone. That's really our mission, is accessible to all, both physically, and then we also financially, we also do some other supplemental support because we really want it accessible to everyone. So the main thing is that you're able to be successful in the practice, and you don't need to be, I mean, that's really the point, is to get mobility, stability, and strength. And that's what the SomaYoga. So the SomaYoga is a different approach. It uses all those wonderful yoga techniques and practices, but we also add somatics. So somatics is a way for us to release tension in our bodies. So everybody has tension. Do you have tension?
24/7.
Yeah. So what would it be like to be able to release the tension in your body and then be able to then go into whatever, whether you're going to sit at your desk or go into cycling or a yoga practice, and then to be able to go in with both more awareness, but also because the somatic movements also give us connection and awareness to the muscles. It's called neuromuscular re-education. So we're releasing tension, awakening the muscles, and then when we go into our movement practice, then we get to have that awareness and more strength. Because if a muscle is tight, it's really not strong, right? So where is there, when you flex a muscle, when you engage a muscle, that's the strength of it, right? But if it's already engaged, where is there to go from there? Right? So we're releasing. So do you want to have a felt sense of what that's like?
Yes.
Okay.
What do I do?
Okay. Do you carry tension in your shoulders?
All the time.
Okay. So let's take a moment here to first we could do a little movement. So do some rounding of your spine forward and back. It's kind of getting moving in your body, right? And by doing that, you can also get a sense of, oh, I guess I have some freedom here, or oh, there's a little tightness there. So that tightness is a tighter muscle, right? And so when we do the somatics, we want to engage the muscle so that we can teach it how to release. So we're going to take the top of the shoulders and then bring them up toward your ears. Okay, that engages the muscles. And now slowly release them. So it's like a really slow release down. And you might feel some little bumpy movements as you come down. It might get a little jagged. Did you feel that?
I just feel tightness. Like it's like I want to do
Okay,
it
so
again,
let's
and just I
let's
can.
do it again. It might take a while, so it takes a while to unwind those muscles. What's happening is, okay, let's slowly release this. You might notice there's a point where it gets a little bumpy.
Right there.
Yep. So then go even slower through that section. Then when you get to the bottom, take a breath. Let those soften even more. And then you could do that a few more times. You could also go into the side of your neck. So we're not stretching. Do you ever wake up with a tight neck? Like,
Mm.
like you slept on it wrong? So we tend to stretch it, right? And then it'll actually tighten up. We have something called a stretch reflex. If your muscle's tight and you go try to stretch it, it's protective and it can tighten up and spasm. If you've ever had that experience of a muscle spasming. So we're going to engage it instead. Do you have one side that's tighter than the other?
I would say it's this side.
Okay, so you'll take your right ear toward your shoulder slightly and then release back to neutral. So your head comes back to neutral, your shoulder relaxes down. You take a breath. So we always take a breath at the bottom so that the muscles have a chance to reset. What's happening is in the brain, it's registered that this tightness is normal. So then they stay that way until we teach them how to release. So now we're going in and now they're saying, oh, is it really okay to let go? And it takes a few times for them to realize, oh, I can actually let go. Okay, so that's the way the somatic movements are. And Thomas Hanna, who developed this movement approach, he developed, there's 8 main movements and there's several more, but the 8 main movements goes through all of the muscle groups, all the different ways of moving to release. And so we use that as a basis for a lot of the movements that we do prior to our asana or poses, yoga poses, or any other movements. So when I go to the gym, I do some of my somatics or SomaYoga before I go to the gym, and then I have more awareness of what
Wow.
I'm overdoing. Okay, because then the other aspect is adding load a little bit at a time so that our body doesn't batten down and compensate. Because our body's really good at protecting. And if we give it just enough of a load to strengthen the muscle, it can strengthen over time. If you overload yourself, your body battens down. So it's
Learning a
this
lot today, I
process.
got to tell you.
Yeah.
And even what you said before about how your muscles think, oh, that's the way you want me to be. So I'm going to stay that way. I'm supporting you because I think that's the way. But no, it's not. You need to basically wake them up and tell them,
Right.
redirect them. Um,
Right.
I've often heard that if you're going to do a stretch, that you need to hold it for 30 seconds for it to be impactful. Is that true?
We tend to stretch when we're stretching, we tend to have the muscle engaged as we're stretching. So it's active and lengthening versus just a cold stretch. Because, well, first of all, we try to release it first. Then we go into lengthening it, and it feels really different. So when you go into a stretch of a tight muscle, it's most likely going to tighten up, um, or it could actually pull tendons and ligaments that connect to your joints. Um, so if you overstretch, then the muscles can actually react, and there can be some instability for your joints. So what I'd say is if you can release the muscle first and then go into the length of it versus a big stretch. So when people are practicing with us, they don't feel the big stretch because the muscle is released.
Okay. Wow. And
Mhm.
before you go to the gym, you said that you do
Mhm.
somatic yoga. How much time do you spend doing that?
About 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so once you've unwound all the various patterns that your body has accumulated over time, whether it's a injury you had or the way you sit or the way you sleep, um, it also lives in our nervous system. So when we're under stress, our body will actually either pull forward or pull back. And so it depends on how much stress you're under. So we also want to regulate our nervous system, and that's a huge part of where we start is with the regulation of the nervous system, so all of our systems can work better.
Where did this start for you? In helping people, yoga in general?
So I was 19 and I found a book. I was going through a, a tough relationship. I found a book. I started practicing because back then there weren't, that was a long time ago. Um, there weren't yoga studios around. And so I practiced and it made me feel strong physically, but it gave me confidence and that inner strength. And I was able to get out of the relationship. And that's where it
Hmm.
started for me. And then I continued practicing through 3 pregnancies, through, um, really my whole life. And then when I got to, gosh, um, in 2009, I decided to take a teacher training program, and then right away I started teaching full time. Oh, we bought our building, started a yoga studio, and both my husband and I we're in service. That's what we do. We're both yoga therapists, and this is our life. I couldn't imagine not being in service and making a difference, helping people feel better in their bodies and their minds because that's it all works together.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Would you say that this is what gives you and many others clarity?
Oh, yes. Yes. In fact, that's an intention I use pretty much every day.
Hmm.
Clarity and meditation is a really good, the movement, the somatics, the SomaYoga is a moving meditation. So that's really helpful, but also just being in quiet with nothing coming into all the senses and being bombarded, just taking that little bit of like couple minutes to feel the breath, quiet the mind, and that clears out a lot of excess noise. And it's really important for both the mind and the body.
Hmm. In my
Mhm.
journey, haven't done yoga yet.
Mhm.
I need to. I know I need to.
I'll send you a link after the
Oh, I'd
after
love
the
that.
session.
I'd
Yeah.
love that. Um, but I can say after trying different modalities to really connect with myself and move life forward, being able to connect with your mind is everything, in my opinion. And I won't say that, I'm a deep meditator, but I could be anywhere. I could be in a waiting room at a doctor's office or just waiting for my kid or whatever it might be. And I could just take a second and just like think to myself and get in a zone and just have like crystal clear thoughts on everything, or just no thoughts. But that's a beautiful thing too. But
Mhm.
once you're able to do that, um, it's a game changer. You agree?
Oh, yeah. And it doesn't take much.
Doesn't take
So
much.
the more you do it, the
Yeah.
quicker it is to reframe. And even if it's something like doing the same, and this is a mudra that we use in yoga, and mudras are a way to, because we're an electrical system,
Yep.
our bodies are, it's a way to create a closed circuit. And this is for grounding. This particular one is for grounding. So even if it's bringing your hands into a certain position, each time you take a moment to pause, you're going to get there quicker. It's
Mm,
like it's creating a neural pathway into the frontal cortex of your brain where you get to be in that more present, non-reactive mode. And so you get to create more gray matter in that area. The more you do that, the quicker it is to get there. It's like a path, right? The more you go on one path, the stronger, the clearer it'll be. And so even if you pause for a minute, like you said, and the more often you do that, the less time it takes.
What we're talking about, is it essentially meditation?
Yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah.
different, yeah. So quieting the mind, there's lots of different ways to meditate. There's walking meditation, there's moving meditation, there's so many different methods of meditation. And I think the most important thing is that you just have something that works for you, like something to focus on, something to, like you said, you're trying to like even not think of anything, right? So just something to focus on for a while to take yourself away from that kind of constant bombardment, right?
Yeah.
And it's simple. It's simple. It's not always easy, but it's a simple thing. And we try to bring in really simple things for people to do little and often. So you don't have to spend 20 minutes. You can spend 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, and it makes such a difference.
It's funny. If I have to take a train somewhere, a plane or whatever, others say, "Oh, you got to sit in there for a couple hours." I'm like, "Oh, this is great.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank you.
oh, wonderful." And of course, I might go on my phone, maybe watch a movie, listen to music, my favorite. But it's also that quiet time. And I spoke with somebody who teaches meditation, has been in the mountains with monks before, like, and I said to him, "How long does it take you to get into?" Before I could even finish that sentence, he goes, 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, really deep in? Yeah, sometimes 4. Okay. Because just like you said, you practice it, you get used to it, but it gives so much back to your life. Again, quieting all the craziness, but also I need to come up with an answer. I need a decision. Just getting that clarity. Amazing. And how does somebody connect with you if they have questions about SomaYoga, or maybe they want to do an online class, or if they're in the St. Paul area? How do they find you?
My email is Ann, at Tula, which is Tula, yogawellness.com. And then I can always direct to the website, or our website is tulayogawellness.com. So that's another way. But to get to me directly, you can email me at tulayogawellness.com.
Beautiful. Once again, Tula means
Balance.
balance. That's etched in my brain. Super cool. Wonderful talking with you. So much info. You've inspired me, and I'm sure many others. Definitely got to start yoga. There's no reason why you can't. You shouldn't. We can all do it in different phases, whatever works for you. Thank you so much for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. It was great talking with you.
Same. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.